Hi, I'm Greg Luderman, and I'm going to give you a video tour of one of my books. And here are the furry novels that I've got up on Amazon for sale these days. The Kanti Cycle is a trilogy about Kanti. He's a Giru, an alien species that look a bit like kangaroos. Kanti works in space, but he doesn't have a prestigious job like an admiral or a captain or even an officer. No, Conti's job is using a bulldozer to load garbage onto a conveyor belt. But his life isn't all bad. He does fall in love. Unfortunately, though, he has a rather large secret, and when his mistake reveals that secret, he ends up running for his life. But there's no way off the White Flower too, so he's not going to be able to escape for long. Today's selection is from Small World, the second book in the Kanti Cycle trilogy. Small World is not only set in a world created by Rick Griffin of House Pets fame, Rick was kind enough to illustrate it. Small World was published in 2018. Chapter 1, Sick Leave. Welcome back, Commissioner Sarsuk, Captain Ateri said, carefully keeping his ears up and open in a forced smile. The crew is delighted that you're feeling well enough to return to duty. The commissioner ignored the tiny Giru at his feet, keeping him waiting while the enormous yellow-green lizard paged through the ship's status report on his strand. He glanced down at the furry creature for a moment before refocusing his attention on the communicator. "It looks like you didn't destroy my ship while I was gone," he gurgled. "I'm surprised." The captain feigned a chuckle and tried to look amused. He hated playing this role, standing in the commissioner's too-warm visiting chamber with Sarsuk looming some 20 meters over his head. Ateri had to cope with the strangely modulated gravity that kept the commissioner comfortable. But at least Sarsuk had set the atmosphere at a reasonable compromise between that of their two homeworlds. He had set the sulfur levels low enough that the stinking mixture only burned Ateri's nose and his one remaining eye. So long as the meeting didn't run long, a shot to flush the sulfur from his system and a few minutes of pure oxygen would undo the damage. But for now, he had no choice. He would breathe the horrible air and pretend the stink of scorched oil and engine exhaust didn't bother him. "I don't know why you'd be surprised, Commissioner. I have the finest crew, and they've always performed." "Yes, yes, that will do," the Kraken interrupted him. "Everything looks in order. I'll be staying until 1200 hours tomorrow." The jet-black Giru's ears perked in surprise. The commissioner hated all of the Giru vessels in his fleet, and he seldom stayed long on the White Flower too, unless a crisis arose. The tip of the captain's thick tail twitched nervously. "A long visit, I see. What would you like to inspect first?" "Nothing," the huge beast grunted as he flopped down hard on the floor. Ateri steadied himself and folded his paws behind his back once the tremors subsided. "On my shuttle, you will find a cage. Fill it." Commissioner Sarsuk clipped his strand back onto his necklace. "I know that you love to agonize over choices, trying to make the perfect decision. So in the infinite compassion that I have for you," he rolled his eyes, "I am giving you some extra time." "Fill a cage," the captain said quietly, "with..." Sarsuk crossed his arms and leaned on his elbows so he could comfortably lower his face down to Ateri's level. "You're smart. At least you always act that way. What do you think? What's the one thing on board this ship that has any utility at all?" Ateri swallowed with a dry throat and blinked his eye. He tried not to stare at the commissioner's meter-long teeth, but there was nothing else to focus on in the cavernous visiting chamber. Just faux stone walls and framed canvases that appeared blank to those who, like the Giru, could not see infrared and ultraviolet. "My crew? 50 slaves should do, Ateri," Sarsuk said. "I had a Ringle cleaning crew previously, but I can't see any reason to buy more of them. 50 Giroux would be a nice perk considering how much I've had to endure for the company recently, he added, his voice filling with self-pity. You want 50 of my crew? Terry couldn't keep all the disbelief from his voice. Sir, you have so many ships. Certainly this burden can be spread around. Do all 50 have to come from my crew? The Kraken's solid green eyes hardened. Yes, from your crew. I was injured on your ship because you couldn't control that vermin Kanti and the Jeru filth you call a crew. Now they will pay. 50 of them. Put their birth tokens back into circulation. They won't be returning. The commissioner exhaled deeply, and Terry struggled to keep upright, despite the Kraken's vile, rotten meat exhale. And not you, Terry. Don't even think about trying to join the cleaning crew. Putting up with you every few weeks is tiresome enough. I refuse to let you live in my apartment. Sir, Terry said, trying to sound humble, please don't take this out on my crew. If you're angry at me... Of course I'm angry at you, the commissioner snapped. Do you have any idea how much it hurts to lose a claw in the recycler? Less than having your eye gouged out by a vengeful lizard, Terry thought, but wisely kept to himself. Even though he tried to will it down, the longer fur on Terry's scruff stood on end. Terry stood motionless for a moment, unsure what to do. He longed to fight this order, but he could tell that doing so was clearly pointless. Commissioner Sarsuk had made up his mind. Arguing would only make him angry and more vengeful. Dismissed, the commissioner grunted. He removed his strand and dragged a massive talon across the screen. Terry started to leave, but then hesitated as his paw reached the hand wheel on the airlock. Sir, if I could, he said, turning back. May I ask what happened to your old cleaning crew, the Ringle? Is there a reason you let them go? What? The commissioner said. Oh, them! He grinned widely, showing off many serrated teeth. Funny story. As you know, I spent a month in the hospital while they cloned me a new claw. And then the company granted me a month's leave as repayment for being so horribly injured on the job. The self-pitying tone returned. So I went straight from the hospital to a beautiful resort on the Isle of Fire. Have you ever seen photos of the island, Terry? The captain carefully shook his head. Moving his head too much in the chamber's artificial gravity caused anyone of Jeru height terrible vertigo. I spent practically the entire month in the spa, and I didn't think about work once. It was so wonderful. Sarsuk sighed wistfully. Anyhow, when I got back to my apartment, I found that the Ringle had run out of food, he said, as if admitting that he had forgotten to water the plants. Apparently, they had sent me all sorts of messages, but I hadn't checked my strand once until I got back home.